right, what's good? Past the Rock, episode 4. What's poppin'? I'm here with a special guest, Seth Green. What's good, bro?
How's it going, bro? Appreciate you having me on the show.
That's what's up, man. Of course, of course. How you doing during this whole quarantine, this lockdown? How's it going?
Man, it's all right. Definitely something new to get used to for sure. Just still grinding, working out best I can. Trying to social distance while doing it, and get ready for hopefully a season that starts on time and stuff.
Yeah, man. Hopefully, everyone's definitely looking forward to that. I mean, sport's a big part of this country, so hopefully we get that going. So I was definitely looking forward to like this podcast because just looking at your career at Minnesota and also from high school, you're someone who plays like versatility, like you're very versatile in like
Right.
different positions, and so it was really honored to get this whole interview going. So just to go right into it and begin the podcast, what would you say like sports has played? What's a major role sports has played in your life in general?
I'd say two major things besides the enjoyment I get from being competitive and playing the sport itself. I'd say it brings like my best friends. Most of my best friends have came from sports. Just that time you spent together, working hard, going through it. You build some really like special bonds and stuff, like some of my lifelong friends. And then a bunch of life lessons. You, especially as an athlete, going through adversity, pushing through difficult times is something that, you do on an everyday basis. So when you in the real world or like the rest of your life pushing through stuff like that, I don't want to say it comes easy, but you're used to how to handle that adversity, and it's something that you're comfortable with getting through. So I feel like that's something that's definitely helped me out and benefited me from sports.
That's what's up, man. And so, just speaking basically on sports in high school, just like you said, adversity. So like we know you played at two different high schools. You played at East Ridge until your junior year, I believe, and then
Yeah.
you came down to Texas and played at Allen. So how was that transition for you? Like, was it like really big, or was it just kind of like you fit right in?
Yeah, it was definitely, talent-wise, it was a adjustment. I mean, nothing too crazy, obviously, but it was different. And then I'd say the biggest thing was the culture shock. Texas football is just so many people take it seriously and really work at it year round, and that's definitely what makes Texas football just across the board the best for high school. And I feel like that was the biggest thing for me, is just adjusting to everybody working as hard as you. It definitely made me step up my game and my competitiveness, which I felt was good for me in my career.
I mean, would you say like there was any challenges, maybe little challenges that you had to face, whether it be on the field or off the field, just, because, transition is a big thing for anybody. Like
Right.
even moving from one city to another for people, like it's definitely a big deal. So like, how would you say there was any little challenges you faced?
Yeah, I definitely say, having that experience helped me for college, because specifically I remember having to sort of adjust to being in a completely new environment. And one thing that was, different for me at that point in time, or different than I'd even say like when you're a freshman going to college, is like when you're a junior about to be senior in high school, sort of everybody's on their tail end, on their way out. So they comfortable, living their life. They didn't already figured out their way for the most part. So for me to sort of get to that point and have to start all over, not only was it an adjustment period, but it was kind of hard with nobody else around, like understanding it or really having to think about things like that. So that's why I really think it helped me going through that, because when I got to college, it's, everybody's in college for the first time. Everybody's a lot more open and going through the same thing. So you have a lot more support of your peers that way. But moving down to Texas and going through that transition, it was a lot lonelier journey. So I feel like that was a good experience that helped me grow as a person a lot.
Yeah, man. I mean, that definitely shows strength, because, a lot of people can't really like a lot of people cannot really deal with transitioning in that kind of way, because it's not just transitioning into like new classes and new environment. It's also transitioning to new football team, new teammates.
Yeah.
It's like it takes
Right.
a lot like mentally to be able to do that. But just transitioning now, you're in Allen. You figure out your position. You figure out like where you're at in this city. So, what? How was it playing for Allen High School? Because I mean, I kind of take this personally because playing. I went to Plano Senior and like I watch Allen like whoop us. They whooped our ass every year. So it was like it was kind of crazy for me. So how was it being a part of such a good football program over there?
It's definitely a blessing, for lack of, I mean, not even for lack of better terms, but like that's really all it was, because that winning atmosphere, you sort of learn like what it takes and what a championship culture is through and through, whether it's, the 5-star starter or it's a third string sophomore. Like, it's everybody's working their tail off 24/7 to be the best team collectively, because they know everybody's important. Everybody has a role. Maybe some people get more spotlight than other people, but at the end of the day, like, we all know our job's important and we all know we need each other to get and accomplish what we want to. So it was definitely just a blessing and a learning experience to be around a whole team that expects to win, but also puts in the work to deserve that right to sort of expect to win. So it wasn't just, being arrogant. It was, we work this hard, we know what we're capable of, and if we handle and do what we're supposed to do, then we should win every game we play.
Man, and another thing I would say, like just piggybacking off that question, so like you were coming like right after Kyler Murray had just left, winning the state title over there 3 years in a row. Would you say that you kind of felt a lot of pressure on you, coming into filling like his shoes in a sense?
I mean, personally, I don't want to say I didn't feel it, but I didn't like to compare myself to Kyler, just because, one, we're two different people, and two, we play different. So with that, it was more of the team expectation, sort of like I was talking about. It wasn't even in the locker room. It wasn't pressure to win every game. It was, we're going to work our tail off and we expect to win every game because we have the ability to, and we've worked hard enough and put enough time in that we deserve to win every game. So that was really the mindset in the locker room in that aspect. So I felt like that was a good way of, there wasn't really pressure. It was just hard work and expectation of ourselves, holding ourselves to a high standard.
I mean, yeah, that's what's up, because I mean, just high school football and like in Texas, it's crazy because you have different like people just putting so much pressure on you, just like booster clubs, parents, coaches,
Right.
even teachers, fellow students. Like it's a lot that people. I mean, I personally didn't play high school football, but I had a lot of friends. Like my brother played as well, and like just seeing like the different type of pressure that comes in. Like it just takes a lot to go past that. But I would say, so transitioning into college, you went from playing like quarterback consistently, like mostly throughout high school, and then going into college, you had to like kind of get into like this hybrid form of playing different positions.
Yeah.
So of all those positions that you've had like a blessing to play and an opportunity to play, which one of them would you say like it's most dear to your heart, or would you just say like they're all kind of equal in a sense?
I mean, I'd say they're all kind of equal in a sense. I mean, I feel like my favorite part of playing multiple positions is I just have so much more of an appreciation for the game as a whole, but also all my teammates, because, I've been in everybody's shoes, like playing tight end. Like, you really have to be down there blocking with the O-line, out wide with receivers. You realize like the amount of, individuality you have in that sense. You're kind of, split out wide, broke off. It's really just the receivers out there by themselves against the secondary. And then obviously the quarterback having the weight of everything on your shoulders, the running back of just, trying to make some out of nothing at times. Cards stacked against you, you still expected to perform. So I feel like the versatility not only helps me better myself as a football player intellectually and on the field, but also it helps me be a better teammate because I gain more of an understanding of what all my teammates are going through and what's expected of them and the difficulty level that comes with it.
Man, and I'm just gonna backtrack a little bit. So, first of all, like before even going to Minnesota, you had like a well amount of colleges after you as well. You had colleges like Illinois, Louisville, Oregon, Texas. Like, out of all those kind of colleges, like, why Minnesota? Like, what made it stand out so much?
Yeah. So first, I was committed to Oregon for a decent amount. It was like right under a year, I think. And when Coach Frost left, he ended up leaving to be the head coach at Central Florida. And so I just felt that the Minnesota staff at the time was doing a very good job of building the program the right way. And sort of my class, I mean, for example, if you look, we had 4 dudes drafted this year. Antoine Winfield was taken in the second round. Carter and Kamal were taken. Tyler Johnson was taken. Chris Will was taken too, but he was a transfer. But that's just, that's the most our school has had in the modern era. And those, with the exception of C. Will, were guys from my class. So we, in the state, like, obviously, I grew up in Minnesota, so I still say, like, I'm from Minnesota, but I call Texas home because that's where I live and stuff. I mean, they both made me into the man I am today. But a lot of the dudes in my class knew that not only talent-wise our group was special, but if we all, sort of stayed home and with the new coaching staff and the vision they painted for us, we could do something special together. And, that did kind of show. I mean, granted, it's a different coaching staff, but it did show this year. I mean, we went 11-2, and really we were 1 to 2 plays from going to the Rose Bowl and the Big Ten championship. And so I feel like it was something with the coaching staff that made me feel like family, and the recruiting class that felt like family to me, even if I was committed to a different school. So when, sort of Coach Frost left, not that it was my second choice, but when I saw sort of how fragile the college atmosphere was with the coaching changes and things of that sort, I wanted to be somewhere I felt at home and with family regardless of what was happening.
All right, so, man, choosing Minnesota now, that's your home. So talk to me about meeting, like, teammates. Like, were there, like, any teammates that you would say you really, like, built a very strong bond with, like, over the years or even over a season, just going straight into that school?
Yeah, so it's definitely a different world because, like, obviously I'm from Minnesota, but I live 30 minutes east of where campus is. And, our campus is really downtown. Like, when I moved into my dorm freshman year, I could see the whole, like, downtown skyline from my apartment window. And so it was really a different world going to school and going to college here versus growing up here. And so with that, I'd say definitely meeting the team. I enrolled early. So I enrolled sort of after winter break with the 2015 class. So I got to know those guys really well and, built a lot of lifelong bonds with them. But I'd say it's definitely, you get a new appreciation for your friends and teammates because it's not just you hanging out with them, doing football, and then going home to your family. Like, you go home and you by yourself, or you with your roommate who's from the opposite side of the country and things. Everybody comes from different walks of life. You definitely learn a lot from people and their experiences. And then on top of that, just that camaraderie you build of always being around each other, is something special, and you gonna carry that with you for the rest of your life.
I mean, yeah, that's that definitely makes sense because, I mean, just sport, like, sports in general, just like for me, just spectating and watching, like, you already feel chills from different things. So, I can't imagine, like, what it feels like to actually be, like, on a college football field. And that kind of, like, transitions, like, right into my next question. So, high school football, obviously, I mean, especially Allen Stadium is huge. So, like, you already have, like, that big crowd, but you can't really compare the Allen Stadium to, like, Minnesota's, like, type of crowd. So, like, how was, like, the difference? Like, did it weigh on you in any way?
I'd say, it always weighs on you, but it's not crowd pressure. It's more of, going out there in unfamiliar territory and not wanting to let your teammates down. That's always what it was for me because personally, I feel like football, there's so many people in stadiums, they're far away. It's really just all white noise. Like, you can't see people in their face. Like, you can't look nobody in the stands in their eyes. So it's a completely different experience than even for me playing high school basketball, when you're inbounding the ball and, you're looking people right in their eyes and they saying your name right next to you and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's definitely in a very electric atmosphere, but it's not super intimidating in my opinion. Most of the nervousness comes from just, performing on that stage regardless of the crowd and making sure that, you perform well for your team and your teammates, because those are the people, you have to answer to whether your preparation was well enough or not. And that's, you're either going to help your team out or hurt your team. And hurting your team is letting down the guys you've been working hard with all off season. So that's just something that it really hurts your heart when you mess up. That's why we be pushing each other so hard in the off season.
Yeah, man. So, just going back to you switching to different positions like all through college, would you say that there was some type of struggle in a sense, like always consistently changing positions? Like, would you say like it was like kind of in a sense like fast paced to like always learn something different in a way?
Yes and no. I'd say, with the offensive playbook staying the same, it was always the same general concept, but learning it from a different perspective was always something that was a little difficult. But I did appreciate it. It wasn't too difficult to the point where I felt like it crippled my play, if that makes any sense. I wasn't too, behind in switching responsibilities and things of that sort, but just learning the different details or something like, okay, I've known this play for 2 years, but I've never learned it from this position or learned specifically how this technique is done on this play. Like I knew that was their job, but I didn't know what all it entailed. So it was difficult for sure, but I don't think it was too difficult to the point of, hurting my performance or things of that sort. And I didn't really look at it in a negative fashion at all.
Oh man. So going back a little bit to your first year at Minnesota. So, coming out of high school, you were ranked the fourth quarterback in Texas, and you were also top 25 of your class, and you also like top 50 recruits in Texas. So how would you say coming from that kind of situation where you had like all this opportunity and this was something that you really cherished the most, how would you say it was redshirting that first season?
I feel like redshirting is all about how you look at the situation. I know some people like to come in and play their freshman year, but there was a fifth-year senior starting quarterback here when I came in my true freshman year. So, I mean, I completely understood, and that's one thing you sort of talk to the coaches about before you commit, of what the depth chart is looking like before you come in. And so I was completely fine with it. I definitely looked at it as an opportunity to learn how to be a Power 5 starting college quarterback, with the off the field stuff, with the how you do practice, how you do game prep, all of those things, how you work out in the off season. And then on top of that, it was a time for me to, during practices, get used to the speed. Our defense was one of the top in the Big Ten that year. We had 3 DBs drafted that year and a linebacker drafted. And so with all that, it's like these are big time players and this is a big time, group. So if you can ball out against these guys every day in practice, it's going to be no different on Saturdays on the field when you have to play an opponent. If anything, it'll be better because they don't get to go against you all the time, so they're not as familiar with your tendencies and things like that. So I looked at it as a growing opportunity. I mean, it definitely hurt a little bit on Saturdays to be on the sidelines knowing you're not getting in because you're redshirting, but at the same time, the reason behind it, so you can just sort of sit, be eager, learn, take everything in, so that way when it's your turn to go out there and perform, you can, learn from people's mistakes and be the best possible player you can be.
All right, man. So, like just looking at different athletes in college, like one thing about the beauty about college football, college sports in general is really like you really just need like pretty much a year to just all out. And like,
Right.
a lot of people end up in the NFL and do great things just from like balling out from 1 year. And like,
Right.
you see a lot of people just rise to the top. So, I know like redshirting would probably be like, nobody wants to go into like the next step of their life and, having to just sit and watch at a point in time. But, it's one of those things that in sports, just expect the unexpected and things just happen like randomly.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it just plays out, in your favor.
Exactly.
But, we're going to talk about Minnesota now because, we're all aware about what's going on in the community right now with, the Black Lives Matter movement. And we know like it's a really big thing, and especially in Minnesota itself. I know you're not always there, but like, would you say you've felt like the presence of the movement like in that city?
Right. No, I was definitely here when the whole George Floyd thing happened over Memorial Day weekend. I think that's when it was. Yeah. So I really felt it. That's, where it happened is an 8-minute drive from my apartment. All the protests were about 6 minutes walks from my apartment. They were all close. That's really like right here. So obviously, being a Black man in the United States is all of those issues hit close to home regardless. But for sort of ground zero, the spark that started moving the nation in the direction of change and stuff to be, not even 5 miles from my house is something that hit home, especially, national news, worldwide news. One of my teammates, he's a punter. He's from Perth, Australia. And he's like, yeah, like, they're covering the stuff in Minnesota there. And that's literally the furthest city in the world from Minnesota. So, just seeing the magnitude of it is something that I won't ever take for granted. And I feel like I need to continue to do my part in making sure I use my platform to not only, start the important conversations, but to spark the action that needs to come in the future to make sure we change and sort of progress more as a community and country.
Yeah, man, and that's what matters because, having a platform, no matter how, how big or small it is very important for people to use it, in times like this because, there are people who don't have a platform to use. So it's like,
Right.
it's kind of like everyone's job who has that platform to, just be the voice of the people who cannot be heard on
Right.
TV or on the radio or like on YouTube or anywhere in general. And kind of one thing that like I've heard a lot, even just talking to, friends about it, like this pandemic is something that really helped, enhance this whole Black Lives Matter movement because we've never seen anything like this before. Like we've seen riots like over and over again throughout this whole, throughout the whole police brutality and racism in America, but we've never seen like riots last for this long. Like to this day,
Right.
you're on Twitter and you still see like people are marching and people are like still out there rioting, like even though we don't see it as much as it was on week one. And it's just like, in a sense, this whole pandemic and lockdown gives people the time to, sit down and actually think and look because
Right.
a regular life situation, everyone's probably going out doing their own thing, working, partying, doing one thing or the other. But like just being at home and being able to just sit down and think and look at these things on the media and on TV really helps with the movement as well. And I hope it can just like remain this, like not necessarily obviously not the pandemic, but like the whole impact that it's bringing into the nation.
Right.
I hope it can really just move on into the future and help solve the problems that we do face right now. But speaking about the pandemic and COVID-19, in your view, how would you say it's affected sports in general?
I'd say it's affected sports tremendously. I mean, in two aspects, obviously shutting it down for the players' safety and health, but also the fan aspect for even when it does come back. That, that's a big element of the game. That's always been, time tested and has always been, one of the main focal points of big moments in sports histories is the crowd involvement, who was there, reactions and things of that sort. So not only having sports completely taken away is something that's unprecedented, especially in this fashion, but also what it's going to be like from this point going on, because it's not like there's just going to be one day where everything's going to go back to normal. It's going to be slowly leading into it and modified versions of, kind of like the NBA is doing the bubble right now. just seeing how the world's going to adapt, especially the sports world, because not only is sports so important to the country for the competitive and pride standpoint, but the entertainment business as a whole and the amount of funding and revenue that comes in and out from that is something to see how the country and the world's going to react and, sort of handle that situation is something very interesting.
Would you say that the whole COVID-19 affecting like crowds and even like no one knows when college football or the NFL or anything is going to start, only thing we can really talk about is just the NBA starting at the end of the month. Would you say it kind of affects your preparation?
I felt like obviously the shutting down of things affected preparation, but otherwise I don't think it does at all. Especially football, I feel like football and Olympic athletes, I don't want to say are in the same boat, but we're no stranger to, working out and having a very long off season. So with that, it comes to just, keep working until the time comes because, it will come. It's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when. So just making sure you continue to work and grow as a player and improve your game so that way when the season does start, you're not left behind because of you weren't taking advantage of the time you have.
All right, man. So just speaking on college football and college athletics, what are like your favorite parts of the whole experience and playing for Minnesota?
I don't know. I got a lot of favorite parts. I mean, just obviously the atmosphere, playing in big time games in front of crowds with your teammates who are your best friends is something I feel I wouldn't trade for the world. That's probably my favorite experiences. The people you meet, whether that's through your teammates who are from different parts of the country, whether that's meeting other college athletes through competition, just all of it. I'd say the whole experience is something that I'll forever appreciate and will take with me the rest of my life and never forget it because it really is just something beautiful, whether it's the off-season work, whether it's the opportunities you get to experience, whether it's the people you meet on campus, the athletic department, not just your team specifically, all of those. I feel like everything that makes the experience what it is, something I've continued to enjoy throughout my time here.
All right, man. So, and speaking on that experience, and I was going to talk about the Tony Dungy Award that you won. Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so I'm a big community service guy. I just feel a little internal obligation to make sure I'm giving back. I was fortunate to come from a good family, good background, things of that sort. So doing my part is something that's very big for me and making sure I'm giving back, whether it's time, resources, or aid in any way I can. Just helping out people who need it or maybe giving a role model to a kid who doesn't have one. Whatever I can do to just sort of make somebody's life easier or better or put them sort of on the right track is something I take very seriously and make sure I focus on and dedicate time to. So, getting the Tony Dungy Award for my team back-to-back is something that I didn't take lightly and sort of gave me motivation to make sure that I continue doing what I do, but also push myself to be better and affect more people and, do more in the community and just making sure that I give it my all and don't leave anything out on the table, I feel like, for lack of better words.
And, speaking on role models, just to kind of close out the podcast, who are like your role models growing up and to this day, just maybe athletes and, just celebrities out there?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, like in my family, like both my parents are my role models. With that, just, the way they live their lives, the way they've raised me has always been a point and a standard I hold myself to, and I'm very appreciative and blessed to have them in my lives. also, you know, other teammates that I feel like worked very hard, you know, throughout my 4 years here, multiple teammates, whether it's old heads, younger dudes who are very ambitious and just put their head down and work, just learning from everybody around me, coaches. And then I'd say my favorite athlete of all time is LeBron. I'm a big LeBron guy, not only because of his work on the court, but also, you know, the person he is, the father he is, the public figure he is, of using his voice and platform for change in the right way, whether it's, you know, starting businesses with all of his friends from his childhood, you know, enabling them to become agents, and, you know, Mav Carter basically running the entertainment side of things, that professionalism, and then also his work in the community with open up the school in Ohio and making sure those kids get an opportunity that otherwise wouldn't have been afforded to them in the same manner. Just the way he encompasses everything, but still, you know, always is never questioned for his work ethic or performance on the court, making sure he's that well-rounded person, and then, you know, exceeding all of those expectations that were set on him when he was whatever in high school is something that I definitely look towards him as one of my favorite role models. That's a, you know, professional athlete or celebrity.
Yeah, man, that's something I could definitely agree on, because even personally, LeBron is like my favorite athlete of all time. Really, like my in a sense, like my role model, just looking up to. Just you know, I mean, just kind of growing up initially, it's like, okay, because he's a great basketball player, but then when you start doing your research, you realize this man came right out of high school, no college education, but still like has like such a good track record of like, you know, being a great family man, a great person to the community and to the world, and even to the NBA, just everything in general, man. So it's just definitely a great guy to look up to. But man, thank you very much for hopping on this podcast. I really appreciate your time, man. It means a lot. I definitely wish you good luck in everything in your future endeavors. Good luck this upcoming season, man. We know you're gonna eat. Just appreciate you, man.
Oh yeah, appreciate you. Appreciate your time.
All right, man. Y'all like, subscribe, comment, and if y'all want to, you know, suggest any topics, let me know. Appreciate y'all for watching. Peace out.